I spoke with Brian Chesky. He's the founder and CEO of Airbnb. I'm Bambi Francisco. Welcome to Vader News. So Brian, you started in 2008. Now you're in every country. You're renting rooms or homes in every country, 11,500 cities. Give us a sense of how fast your company is growing.
Yeah, you're right, Bambi. It's growing very fast. We're in every country, actually, but the People's Republic of Congo and North Korea. And
Two hot markets.
yes, exactly. And we'll see where the expansion goes from there. But it's pretty amazing. We started in 2008, and we were just renting out airbeds in a living room in our apartment. It originally started by people renting out apartments in big cities in the United States. So people were renting out apartments and homes in New York City, in San Francisco, and Los Angeles. And from there was this natural network effect that happened. Travelers would come from around the world to stay in New York or SF, and they would book rooms, and then they come from like every country on the planet to go to these places, and they'd go back to where they came from, and they'd spread the idea with them. So
Right.
our travelers became kind of carriers of the vision, and they naturally spread it because it was inherently a travel site.
That was your marketing
Yeah.
strategy there.
Yeah.
Inherent marketing strategy. What besides, I know you've been renting castles for a while and islands, what are some of the sort of the more profitable rental opportunities that you've gotten into?
The most profitable rental opportunities for us are people renting out bedrooms or entire apartments in major cosmopolitan cities that are international destinations. So
Okay.
somebody renting out a bedroom or their entire apartment while they're gone in Paris, New York, London, Berlin, SF, Hong Kong, for around $100 to $200 a night, or $50 to $200 a night. That kind of
Those are more profitable to you because that they're more in demand.
traveling-
so
yeah.
they would raise.
Yeah, the
prices
traveling
are higher.
public. I mean, most people in the world, like most tourism, just kind of centralizes to major cities. London is the most popular tourism destination in the world. More people go there than kind of a small town, obviously.
Right.
So, like, most of our money is going to be centralized around big cities. And the reason most of our money is in that kind of average kind of range is that's just the average price point. Now we have $1,000 listings on our site, and people book them. It's just not as many people in the world that want to pay that as somebody who wants to pay a couple $100 or $100 a night. And so just they become very profitable because they get booked all the time.
Right, right. So these are people living in urban areas that are renting their apartments or condos for a day or a week. Now, what percentage of all your rentals are those type of rentals?
So half our reservations are people renting out a bedroom while they're there. So basically, all these people either decided they had an empty bedroom and they said one day they said, you know what, I can actually rent this extra bedroom and I can get paid to meet cool people. I can
Right.
essentially bring the world to my living room.
So half the reservations that you're doing are just people renting one room in their homes.
Yep. And the other
Okay.
half are people renting out space, whether it's their home, their apartment, a castle, a boat, whatever the space is, and they're not in the space with you. You get your own space. So it's half and half. Of the people that are doing bedrooms, we don't know, but let's assume a bunch of those people probably had roommates before this, and this is an alternative to a roommate.
Right.
Right? So in other words, you don't have to get a roommate year round. You can rent your space like a week, a month.
Right.
And probably make the same amount of money, and you get your own place to yourself.
Right.
And the other half of people probably never had a roommate. They just had a, empty bedroom. They didn't know what to do with.
How big is that market, renting one room in your home?
The answer is we don't know. There's a saying, there's no edges to a market that you create. So in other words, the market will be as big as we create. We're creating the market, so it's hard to size it. We think it's probably similar to the vacation rental market. The vacation rental market is about $24 billion in the U.S. And close to $100 billion worldwide. We would reason to believe it's probably a similar size market,
Okay.
just based on how many bedrooms there are, and just when we do marketing, how many people are willing to kind of do this new activity relative to vacation rentals.
Now, are you moving aggressively into vacation rental markets, which is pretty defined as $24 billion? Or are you moving into, I think you mentioned sublets, which is another market opportunity for you. What are the growth of the four markets? Or first of all, maybe you could talk about the four markets you're looking at and which ones you're looking to really pursue.
So there's really, let's say today, three major markets where we get business. The first market is somebody renting out their extra bedroom in a city around the world. And that's where we started. Airbnb started people renting out their extra bedrooms. One day, somebody wanted to rent out their entire apartment. Well, they were gone. So the second market are people renting out homes and apartments in big cities around the world. Most of our bookings today, not in the future, but today, happen in those two markets.
Right.
One that we've gradually moved into, and we haven't really focused on it, it just happened organically, is vacation rentals. And a vacation rental typically means a second home in a seasonal resort-like destination, like Tahoe, Cape Cod, places like that. And that market we've just kind of gradually gotten into. Our system has worked perfectly. The product hasn't really needed to change to facilitate that. So then the fourth one, the one we're actually focusing on moving into, will be sublets. And sublets are 30-day rentals. If I need a place for a month, our system is kind of still built around the idea of checking in, checking out, checking in one night, checking out the other night. So we think there's some optimizations to the product we need to do sublets, but it's a huge market.
How big?
That's another question that we don't know actually how big it is either. The best evidence you have is just click on the sublet section of Craigslist in any city, look at all of their listings, imagine what if you took 10% of every one of those. That's basically probably the market potential for this.
And is one of the reasons you're going for that market because you see the demand on Craigslist and there's really not other competitors that are facilitating those type of transactions?
It's less opportunistic and more, it's one of the most popular and most demanded types of spaces on our website. Okay. What's actually happening right now are every day people are searching for monthly places on our site, or they're trying to book people's places for a month. And some people don't want to host people for a month, and some people are totally fine. And our site doesn't really do yet today a good job, and so we're kind of optimizing the site so you can do monthly. And the reason why I think monthly is interesting, let's say 2 to 8 weeks, let's say, because it's not necessarily just monthly, but more than a typical 2-week vacation. So when more 2 weeks, you're kind of starting to live there. There's really no other option. Think about it. You can stay in a hotel for 3 nights or Airbnb. You can stay in a hostel for 3 nights. You can also, if you happen to have a friend in the city, stay with a friend for a few nights.
Right.
So Airbnb is an alternative for a short term, 3-4 nights, to all these other things. For a month, you can't stay in a hotel. I mean, it's kind of unreasonable. You can't stay in a hostel. After a month, you've probably worn out your welcome with your friend, unless they're your best friend. You're probably not staying, and at that point, they're probably going to ask you for rent money. There are really no options. And even on Craigslist, if you try to get a place for a month, usually not in the city. Oftentimes, a lot of people book monthly places. Say you first move to a neighborhood. You don't know the neighborhoods. You need to get a place in a hurry. The places are unfurnished. So you have to get furniture. Airbnb, with a click of a button, you can just get a place for.
Right. Let me ask you about another opportunity and something I believe that, I guess was it Fred Wilson who brought it up, and he said that he wasn't sure, he didn't invest in your company because he wasn't sure you could scale beyond the B&B market. You couldn't get into the hotel market. Is that a big opportunity, the hotel market?
Well, I think what he means by a hotel market is just the traveling public. In other words, I think when we first met him, people were only renting out. It was probably helpful for me to put context to where we were when we met him.
Right.
When we met Fred Wilson, first of all, we were not called Airbnb.
Okay.
We were called Airbed and Breakfast. And the kind of short version of the story is, one day, Joe was living in San Francisco. He convinces me to move up to San Francisco. An international design conference is coming to San Francisco. All the hotels are sold out. We have the idea to start a bed and breakfast. We didn't have any beds, so Joe suggested we pull out some air beds from a closet. We call it the Air Bed and Breakfast. And by the and so instead it was this idea that you could provide like accommodations. You could people could sleep on your airbed in your living room or in an extra bedroom, really cheap, really budget kind of. And when we met Fred Wilson, it was kind of still that vision. So and we started telling him people are starting to rent out bedrooms.
Right.
And so he's thinking to himself, well, I would never God knows how big the market for people sleeping on airbeds is. This is like a really small niche activity. And travelers staying in bedrooms, we were the only ones doing that. There was no existing market.
Right.
And it didn't seem like it was an alternative to a hotel. The big thing is the people renting entire apartments, the urban vacation rentals. We hadn't really gotten into that space yet. And I think the name, too, everyone's really fixated on where we came from.
Sure.
And I think even in his post, he said, we focused on where they came from and what they were doing, not what they were going to do.
Right, right.
And I think that was, if you know,
Does that still address the hotel market, though, or are you what he's referring to in terms of that? Is that a different market opportunity that you're not going after right now?
people ask all the time, like, are we going after the hotel market? And I think some of the people view us as an alternative to hotels, and some of us would never view us, like, they would never stay in a hotel in the first place. So I think that it really depends on the person. There are people that probably stay in Airbnb instead of a hotel now.
Okay, Brian, you're going to stick around. We're going to talk about how you make money and
Yep.
what Airbnb is going to look like in 2 to 3 years.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
I've been speaking with Brian Chesky. He's the founder and CEO of Airbnb. I'm Bambi Francisco.